AgVentures, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about AgOptions after it. I would note the differences. Like a lot of the how-to stuff is talk about it as AgOptions. So the grant cycle is open now, so you can actually go online and look to see if you're interested in the ag option. There's a lot of information here. We'll go over part of it, but the first step you need to take is contacting your local extension agent and doing what we call an intent to apply. And really this is for us agents so that we may have 8 or 10 people we're working with and to try to do a little bit of time management. I will say from all the agents I know, don't wait until the week before the deadline. I know in our office, we'll hand them around and let 2 or 3 different people read and make some comments on them. So kind of the philosophy is if you start now and get me an application next week, we're going to edit it and you're going to have a lot longer to work on this to refine it, because these are very competitive grants. Generally, the scores will be less than 2.5 or 3 points that separates all of these grants. We do try to award one in each county at least. Usually Watauga is pretty high up in the county. Getting grants, I think we had 7 2 years ago. Yeah, 7 2 years ago, so which is a lot. But the website, there's a lot of information on here. So this just kind of goes over who's eligible to apply and the counties that are in. That we are looking for grants that are innovative, that's going to add income or save you on expenses for your farm. So we did change things a few years back because we realized many grants wasn't increasing income, but it was saving a lot on that cost side. So we do need to make sure that you're being clear on how this is going to help your farm stay more sustainable. So if you're a current employee of NCDA, Western North Carolina Communities, or NC State, or A&T, or any cooperative extension, you're not qualified for this grant, just to take away any kind of nepotism. So you can see priority. We want to see somebody that's diversifying or expanding or doing something innovative, and that doesn't have to be some new technology. We find it's very innovative for people in livestock. I'll speak to that since that's what I know. But if you're not vaccinating or working your animals, getting something that is going to allow you to do that is very common and very innovative. Using bulk feed or some new type of feeders is also considered innovative and usually ranks up there. Probably our #1 priority is current or previously grew tobacco in North Carolina. And that's where this funding comes from. The tobacco settlement funds back in 2002, actually, that came out in 2004. So you actually get some extra points if you have raised tobacco or have that tobacco history. Now, we also don't want you just putting down because 3 people before you that owned the farm raised tobacco and there's a tobacco bar, and you're not going to get points for that. And, generally, it distracts from your grant. We do want you to have to be a legitimate farm business, and we encourage you to make sure that you have a revenue tax exemption number. You get points for having a farm service agency number. If you don't know what that is, that's the USDA that's in several different counties. Your office may be combined with another county. You can go in and sign up and get your farm if it's not, has a farm number. That also qualifies you and gets you on the mailing list for USDA funds, which has been very generous to most farms the past couple of years with the COVID money coming through. So filing a Schedule F with the Internal Revenue Service, You know, it's fine if you put down you're going to file for this year, but we want to see that you have filed previously. That's what gets you the extra point. You also get a little bit of extra points if you're generating more than 1/2 of your household income from your farm. We do want to make sure that you have sufficient experience for the commodity or the product that you're growing. So there's a place on the application, we'll go over here in just a second, that shows how many years you've been farming. If you have been an intern or previously farmed years ago, make sure you list all that, just similar to what you would a resume on your experience. Probably some of the easiest money or points to get this money is having 2 letters of support. This doesn't need to be the neighbor saying you're a great guy. This needs to be somebody that you've worked with, another farmer, a mentor. It could be another extension agent, but you're going to have one cooperating agent. They can't write you a letter and be the cooperating agent. So you can have somebody from a feed store that's helping you, advising you in any way. So be looking for that. Make sure, you know, be asking us. What I tell people is get those sent to you, include them with your application so you make sure that they're turned in. So the other thing is we want to make sure you've not received funding from WNC AgOptions or Tobacco Trust Fund from 04 to 21. Now we do allow on AgOptions, or if you were in the Raffy area in Ashe County and you're now over here, you would still need to list it, but you can get up to 3 grants. So we have several people every year getting that 2nd and 3rd grant. Now we do take points off if you've received one. So for every grant you've received, we subtract 5 points. And we still have people that get 3 grants. So that's 10 points down. So they do a really great job at writing that grant and usually building upon a program that they've started 2 or 3 years in advance. So the applications are reviewed, they're ranked, there's a scoring system. Richard and I both serve on the steering committee, and I think it's probably one of the fastest scoring systems that we have anywhere. So some of the expenses that you can use this grant money on, agritourism is probably going to be one of the newer ones here that we're seeing a lot more interest in and a lot more profitability. But, you know, seeds, amendments, fencing, you know, any kind of buildings works. Now, you can't fund pre-existing debt of any kind, and you cannot fund your own labor or labor of your family for that. So if you're having trouble, so these grants are $4,000 and $8,000. You have to have your grant budget needs to be $4,400 or $8,800 to qualify. And it's really easy to get this money spent. One thing when I advise people is start with your top 10 ideas if you're not clear on where you want to go, and then start refining that down to what is the top #1 thing you need to make your farm more sustainable or to make you be able to become profitable in either expanding or starting a new enterprise. So applications, is December 17th. I think they're going to be able to email this year. They were last year. You have to have them in on email by noon on Friday. And it's not a postmark. If you're mailing them in, they have to be received by 5 p.m. On December 17th. I think they would be accepted if you had a traceable or trackable and you had sent it and it was guaranteed to be delivered. But that would probably be a committee decision. So make sure everything's in, your letters of support, all of that needs to be turned in by December 17th. So here's kind of what we're laying out as the timeline. These grants would be reviewed and graded January 3rd and 4th. And then the week of January 24th, you should receive a letter of acceptance or regret. And then you will have to attend an orientation workshop that's scheduled for February 17th, where we provide a lot of different trainings for you. So both of these grants this year will require you to do a business plan, which we provide very good training. Megan Baker in Buncombe County usually does our business plan workshop, and it's highly reviewed and will help you become better in your farming. So let's see if we can. So here is the actual application. And I'm not going to read all of this to you. We're going to kind of try to give you some tips. So here's where you're going to start filling out. And I suggest, like I say, I hope you have a good relationship with your extension agent, because they should be providing a lot of input and help through either one of these grant proposals. So a good project name, and it could be anything from expanding lamb production on whatever farm it may be. Then the county where it's at. Now you are required to be a resident of one of the 22 counties. If you lease a farm here and you're living in Raleigh, you do not qualify for the grant. As far as AgOptions, I'm not sure on AgVentures what all that entails.
But I would assume it's about the same.
And so your total project budget amount, if you're requesting for, should be $4,400 at a minimum, or $8,800. Don't try to just stick right with that 44 or 8,800. I'm sure we can add enough things or think of enough things to get that up there and make sure that you're being qualified. And then just a little bit of information, contact information. And then on page 2, here's where we start the scoring. So like I say, getting a Department of Revenue tax exemption number. We do have people, I think, that put yes, that put has applied. I'm not sure how we're treating that. But I would encourage you to apply as soon as possible for that exemption. If you're spending $10,000, there's a minimum, I think, for the revenue.
I mean, to be eligible for the non-conditional, you need to have $10,000 of those farm sales in a year. But there's the 3-year conditional.
So make sure you're checking that out and getting it. It'll save you a lot of money in the long run, filing taxes. Get that Farm Service Agency number. You can look for your USDA representative. This can be done really in an hour. Also, it may help you if you don't have a Farm Service Agency number. You may not be registered as agricultural with your county tax department. And so being able to get that FSA number, going to the county tax department and getting an ag exemption can save you a lot of money on property taxes as well. So filing a Schedule F or Schedule C, they're wanting to know how long you filed that, what percentage of your income. And then on question 5, some activities, educational activities to where we know that you're trying to expand and, get education on the enterprise that you're going for. There's a lot of these if you go to the organic conference or
Industry Association.
yeah, there's just tons of them. Even county meetings that you've attended that Richard and I have done qualify, but just a little bit of history. And then your farming history here just kind of goes back. And a lot of times we see people that have a long time ago they did it, they went and worked off farm and then they're back. Just be clear on that. And then just a place for you to elaborate. on your history. Yes. So we do suggest you pay attention to the word maximum on here. Nobody's counting all these, but if you have 2 pages, I guarantee you the reviewers are going to read the first page and that's it. We don't have time to read lots of extra fluff in these applications, so be brief but concise.
One thing I'll say before we move on there, this is the first of your narrative opportunities. And you can build a story in this question and the subsequent 2 or 3 that we're going to do. So you don't have to say the whole world in this question number 7. Talk about the history of the land, your history of agricultural training and experience, and then the next questions will allow you to outline the goal of the project and then hopefully the results.
So this is your tobacco question. If you're presently growing tobacco, you're going to get 5 points. If you grew tobacco in the past, that's 4. And then, well, I guess it goes down a little bit. If your family grew tobacco on the same land you're farming, I think you get 1 point. So be honest with this, and there will be checks on this. So if you put it down there, somebody is checking to make sure that you had tobacco history. And I guess the only way they wouldn't is if you're not doing crop reporting now and you're selling tobacco in some other way that's not registered through USDA, you would have to show some kind of receipts. So here starts that narrative, the project and the proposal. It allows you to come in here and really tell your story. So some of these questions that we've added over the years to help you fill out these is, how will you handle additional workload? If you're going to expand your operation from 1 acre to 3 acres, what's your plan for labor or mechanization to be able to reach that additional workload? Any kind of research on the production methods, if you're coming up with something new, going back and really looking some research and finding that would be helpful. There again, try to keep it 750 words. We get a lot of them that get very wordy, and some people want to put pictures on extra pages and all, and generally we don't find that that adds a lot to it unless it's something so out of the normal that nobody might know about it. Then, you know, some of those things you may include. I can even think of one that pops to my head.
I think successful ones have been growers who are buying a unique type of machinery that maybe the reviewers wouldn't be familiar with. Or, you know, if they say that they're doing something outlandish and have a picture of them already doing it successfully. You know, because sometimes people have surprising projects that don't sound realistic to some of the reviewers, but if they can document that proof that it works, then.
So here, what are your anticipated outcomes of your project? If you're investing in a new piece of machinery or something that is not going to pay until fall, and then it's going to make your harvest quicker, or you need to make sure that you are putting what outcomes those are. If your equipment's just going to save you labor, then make sure that you're putting that that's the anticipated outcome of your project. Even if you're not doing a cash outlay for labor, put down in there what savings to you there is, because if you don't have to work as much, then that's a huge outcome. And your agent can help you put some type of a value or dollar figure to that labor or to this anticipated outcome. So how do you plan to market or sell your farm business, product, or experience if you're doing agritourism? This one's 250 words. This may be where you go a little bit longer, especially if you're starting into agritourism. Remember, many of these questions go together. So you don't have to put the same answer on each one of them. Kind of look what that question's really asking. Like this one, to market, what's your advertisement? Do you have social media? How are you getting the word out to people? So that, you know, we know that you're doing the research and not just saying, I think people want to buy this many widgets. You need to know what that widget's going to do for them and how you're actually going to market that product. So how will it enhance or increase your capability to continue farming? And what's the value adding to the long-term economic viability to keep you on your farm or to keep your farm going? You know, if you're getting close to the next generation taking over, and so you're being visionary and trying to get things in there so that that next generation can be more successful, put that down. You know, hey, this is going to long term. We're looking at a 20-year investment. Be concise.
On that front, we're looking for AgOptions and AgVentures are looking for revenue as soon as possible, a 1 to 2 year window. Hopefully, some can assess. But if that is small, or if it's gradual in proposal, then here's an opportunity to talk about it. You want both. Evaluating to have at least some immediate.
And those results may not be income per se. It could be savings. So make sure you're thinking that through. We find that a lot more have savings, I think, than income. So part of this project, we do like to share, and you'll be on the website, and it's a good place. The website is to go and look at what other projects have been approved, and I think they're all on there clear back to 04. And you can look at that by county or by commodity. But so how can these, what you're doing, how can you reach out to the community to share that with other farmers, at least to let them see an idea of what you're doing? You don't have to share your trade secrets. We're not wanting to bring competition in. We're just wanting to show innovation and what can be done. And I won't use the word small farm per se, but on your farm or on other farms that are similar to yours. So I think this is one of those that generally kind of throws people off, is the timeline. I like to see them sometimes if you're building a cooling facility or putting a cooler in for vegetable production. You know, it may be March and you're putting the cooler in and that's all you have. You may use the cooler or something. I don't know, people do different things, but if your project is something to where you're doing seed saving and you have expenses and activities throughout the year, the more concise, the better, I think, on here. But don't feel like you have to fill something in for every month there. So we're going to get a little bit redundant. I'm going to finish the application and then I'm just going to cover a little bit about enterprise budgets, because we're really kind of going to that more to for two reasons, I guess. For one, so that we can see that you're thinking about this and not forgetting some expenses. And for two, it gets you in that mode of thinking of a financial plan or a business plan that you're required to do. And so income, you can leave this. If you do an enterprise budget, you should be able to pull numbers out of that. If you don't want to do an enterprise budget, it's not required for the application. But I think it makes your application stronger. So this is just some proposed financials for the next 2 years. If you're not going to have any returns, you will want to make notes here that my returns are expected in 2024, 2025, 10 years out if it's a longer term project. I'm not sure we've ever done one longer term project, and that was Truffles several years back. Some of those can be very hard to do, and it makes your grant harder to grade. So savings, we did add that column. So if you're just going to be, if you're buying a bulk feed bin compared to bag feed, and I used 6 tons last year, and I plan to use 6 tons this year, but I'm going to save this much money. It's pretty self-explanatory. Expenses, this is not farm expenses. This is what we want to be your project or enterprise expense. And many of these, you may have more uses. So you may do an enterprise for several different crops, and you're using the same piece of machinery to do that. You can add in your rows here and do a short explanation. And then here's your budget. So this is just basically for your project. So there again, you need to be at 10% higher, the 44, the 8,800. And then we want to see line items. If you're building a building and you're going to have X amount of concrete and 16 2x4s and whatever else it may be, then list that here. Kind of an itemized list. You don't need to get everything broken down into each screw or anything, but you can put, make sure you thought it through and have complete package of what you're going to, at least to that 10% above. So in-kind contributions, you can put your own labor in here. If you're doing a work day and people's coming volunteer, that would definitely be in-kind. If you're providing equipment, if you own your own tractor and you're doing land prep, that could be an in-kind contribution. It does not count to that $44,000 or $8,800 though. Here lately, we've been getting people that put down the value of their farm. That's really not an in-kind contribution. If you don't have anything in here, that's okay too. I don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to this, but thinking it through a little bit, but getting it up to a lot of big money is not going to help you out. Do what? It does not require in-kind contributions. Now, I always encourage you, because you can't pay yourself, to put your management and your labor down on there. That's in-kind contribution, absolutely. If the family's helping, putting down family labor is perfectly reasonable to do. And I always suggest $15 an hour. Now, that may not fly if you're paying your labor $7.50, but you do want to think that through. So here's our expected income. It's just going to break it down. If you're selling, 50 calves, break it down into however 25 steers, 25 heifers, and then do an estimated income. Or if you're doing blueberries, you're probably not going to have any for year 1 or year 2, but making sure that you can make a note here, and there again, estimated income 3 years out or 4 years out would be justifiable. So your cooperating agent, if you're in Watauga and you're going to be doing a livestock or a field crop, you're probably going to want me to be your cooperating agent. I think most of us, every year we meet new people this way, and it's the first time they've called us on the phone or walked through the door. I do encourage you to go meet your agent, ask them about being a cooperating agent, and just letting them meet you. I like to come to your farm. I like to see what your ideas are. It just helps me assist you in writing a stronger grant. And all of us, we will have multiple applicants, and I give each person the same exact help. So if Ian's in my office, Ian's the applicant award winner, in my opinion, and then whoever comes in next, they're the applicant award winner. So we really do, our competition's the other 21 counties, not people in the county. So we want to have strong grants. There again, making sure your letters of support, make sure you're scanning them in. If you need help with that, come to the office. We'll help you scan in whatever you need and get it sent. No, I mean, you're not working on the same project or doing a team project. That would be, I don't see an issue with that.
I think, I mean, you know, the committee probably would want to see the potentially.
I mean, I would venture that most of our applicants in Watauga know each other. And sometimes they use each other as that support, you know, because one of them may be a mentor that's, you know, really took somebody under their wing. And so, yeah, that wouldn't be any issue. An important part here is prior funding from North Carolina Tobacco Trust Fund. So if you've received agritourism cost share or RC&D energy, those tobacco trust fund, I guess ASAP, if you yeah, I don't see it listed, but if you've received any kind of funding from ASAP when they had the marketing program, you would need to list it. Yeah. Anything you've, well, you're doing AgVentures, so. So here's where if you've received a RAFI, you haven't got a RAFI. Yeah. Or an ag option, and then what years that's been in. And I guess RAFI ended in 2011. That's what it's got. Richard and I's great showing this. But if you have received that, Jennifer Free is going to be checking on that. So we will know. You're not going to pull the wool over anybody's eyes if you have received these. If you've done previous grants, we ask for some information back. You know, tell us about your grant project before. Are you still using that money or that piece of equipment or whatever it was? Is that making you more sustainable? How much income? If you got it in 04 and that's 17 years and you know it's made you $1,000 a year, definitely put that down. And then the other part of that reporting is what kind of outreach did you do? I know here there's several farms that we hold field days or even take somebody or refer them to go talk to this farmer because they're doing this. And so if you've done that, and if you think about it, I guarantee you've shared with somebody that's interested at a workshop somewhere, at a conference, somebody's asked you about that, you know, kind of put it down what you've done or if you've mentored someone. So the other part is you have to certify that you're a resident, you possess all the rights to the resources, you're going to follow all the laws. I'm not going to read all these to you. And then you're going to sign. And then you also, we have a checklist for you. And then you're going to have this state grant certification, no overdue taxes or conflict of interest. And you will have to have this filled out and notarized and sent in with your application. We don't have a notary in our office any longer, so probably the best place to go, if you have an attorney, you can go to your attorney, but the state employees credit union, I think they will notarize for anyone. So make sure you read that through. I know one time we had one person that was disqualified because they owed back taxes. So we definitely don't want you to run into that issue. Richard, you got anything to add? Or?
No, I'd say, I mean, like Eddie said, every question is a chance to build on the narrative. So even at the very end about outreach, you know, you plan for outreach and plan a project with outreach in the past. You know, that's a way to solidify that you could have with the extension agent, with community groups, with us you work with. Of course, if this is your first grant, then you know, you put in there more just on your.
And even if you don't get funded, I find people I work with that go through this process, they have much stronger farm enterprises. They think things a little bit different. And so I'm just going to go over a little bit about livestock budgets. Richard, George. Sure. Yes, if they're selling with the hub could definitely talk about their marketing or write a letter supporting them. Yeah, just like we've had them from the farmer's market manager saying, you know, they've sold at the farmer's market for 5 years or for 1 year or whatever it is. So, and that just shows that they're getting the marketing side. So it's a whole complete, doesn't have to be production or, you know, it can be any part of that chain. So just a couple of websites I want to share. You can get that up there, or you can call me. So University of Iowa, or Iowa State, not University of Iowa, I'm sorry, Iowa State has probably the best livestock enterprise budgets around. And I'll show you a little bit about, let's see. So this includes everything, and you can print or download. So here's what it has for a lot of prices in here. And these were all 2021 pricing. Here's what, if you want to look at labor hours and what's suggested. And this is a pretty detailed enterprise. You don't have to get this detailed, but it is good to know what you're doing on a farrow to finish on pasture, how many labor hours per piglet or per litter that is. That should be per piglet, but it says litter. I would break it down further, but anyhow, shows a lot of these. It breaks it down into breeding herds, and these are all numbers you can plug in. Let me see if I can get down. It actually has enterprise budgets that you can fill out. So here we go. And I'm just showing hogs. It has it on here for goats, sheep, cattle. But just starting to think about this through, we can change these if you want to change things, however you want to do it. If you're not buying your feed cost as products that you're mixing, if you're buying a complete feed, you can just put a complete feed in here. You don't have to break it down by ingredients. Most farmers that's doing pigs, that they're actually growing most of the feed, and that's how they're marketing their feed. But it breaks it down. And like I say, you don't necessarily have to have every one of these filled in. And a lot of them, you can just put your variable cost instead of fixed cost. A lot of people don't know or haven't a clue what their fixed costs are. We can put a very rudimentary one in, and any of us agents can help you do these enterprise budgets. And this is just for livestock at Iowa State. And you guys can definitely send an email or talk to me and I'll share. Now, the other one I like, and I don't know, Richard, if you use this from Washington State, but it's using your enterprise budgets to make decisions. And it's got a lot of different budgets in here. And it actually talks about, breaks it down into what you need, comparing variable cost, fixed cost. If you have interest, how do you charge that out per unit? And that's the easiest way to do your enterprise budget. If you're doing lambs, break it down into ewes or lambs so that you have a small unit so you can really compare those costs. It makes it easy to see, I want to expand 20 ewes, and where's that at? One thing that goes along with enterprise budgets is keeping good records. And I'll put a plug here. If you're a sheep producer, I'm looking for people that's interested in keeping some records through this lambing season. North Carolina's lambing rate on the last survey of sheep producers is 80%. National average is about 150%, and we feel like you need to be at 175% to really be profitable. So we're looking for flocks of sheep that want to share records, and we'll help you design a record keeping program so that we can design programs to help advance your lambing rate and to create more value in your product. So just to show you a little bit more, this goes through doing, just making up hypotheticals. It's one of the best worksheets. It talks about looking at your break-even analysis. So knowing what your cost and your price production is, and the way this goes back to the grant is we know you've done your work. If you submit something that's pie in the sky numbers, everybody reviewing is an ag professional in some way, and we definitely share, and we don't mind picking up the phone and calling somebody to say, is this actually realistic? Can you make $10,000 an acre off of, potatoes? And if they have some clever whatever, we'll include that, but knowing what your costs are, I think is essential. And as we go on through this to keep you sustainable, at least knowing where that's at. And making money may not be everybody that's on here's #1 priority, but as a grantor, they want to know what is your priority and what does that money help you with? Because it's not just to do something that's fun. It's actually meant to get on the farm and add value. Can you check the chat and see? Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. So this one just goes through tribbles. So if you're a Star Trek fan, you remember the tribbles. You get a lot of responses. Showing my age, I guess. So this one includes some of that price per unit, and it's more on that crop side. It breaks it down what that cost per unit or what those values are. But then you can see on the far right, it has what is your farm's value or cost. So I always think it's helpful to have some numbers somewhere. This has been updated fairly recently. Land rent is probably about right on the money for here for class 1 or 2 soils. And so there's other links on this page that go to more specific enterprise budgets. And I'm sure Richard has other enterprise budgets. NC State with the farm school, they have quite a few enterprise budgets. Some of those I don't find as easy to utilize as the Iowa State budgets. But I'll stop there. Is there any questions?
And you read it back over.
I'll just stop sharing. So agents can be cooperating agents. If you want me to be your cooperating agent, that would be fine. But I encourage you to talk to the agent in that county to at least let them know that you're making an application. And I guess that would work for AgVentures, Richard, or?
Sorry.
He was asking if I could be his cooperating agent on AgVentures. I don't know, yeah, if you're one, take them. Yeah. I can't take everything of them on because I know I'm gonna have quite a few ag options, but, you know, contact me early, and we'll definitely get started on it. But like I say, here in Missouri or Wilkes and Wilkes and Ash, that works. I know there should be no issues.
Eddie, we have 2 questions from Katie.
Okay.
So her first question is, are nonprofit organizations eligible for this grant, or does it need to be a business? And 2, are there any businesses or business planning workshops coming up? And I have the mic on my computer if you want to come over and talk here so they can hear you. Sorry, they're switching out laptops.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah,
So let's read this again.
yeah.
So we have had nonprofits apply. I don't think we have approved any. But definitely talk to us. It would be better coming from a private farm or entity. It would kind of depend. Shoot me an email and let me know what the nonprofit is, and then I can definitely check with Jennifer and the committee to see where we go on that.
Okay, sure, thank you.
And then the business planning workshops, right now, I don't think we have anything planned whatsoever. I'm working on one right now to doing on-farm store that will include a little bit about business, but if you're wanting to look at enterprise budgets, you know, shoot me an email and we can definitely, you know, make arrangements to meet either on your farm or in my office and work through a budget with you. Yes, remind me where I find that.
Yeah, so if you go to the mute button on the far left and click that drop down arrow, yep, you can select your microphone and it looks like it's already there. Great. All right, you have to unmute yourself though. All right, cool. Thanks for hanging tight, y'all.
Any other questions, please email me. And I'm gonna go.
All right, I'm gonna get on screen, I guess. So let's see, let's put this on the bottom. Let's close that. So AgVentures. Am I not? This is not showing you on. No, that's not right. Then select the right one. Thank you.
So it's that little red button in the middle of the screen next to the menu.
Yeah. Let's try one more time. Thank you. AgVentures. Oops, no, that's the wrong one too. Let's go back here. All right. AgVentures is set up inspired by the same grant. It started out with AgOptions in the western part of the state, and now there are similar overlapping, or not overlapping, there are similar complementary grant programs across all of North Carolina. I do apologize. I don't think anyone here is still tuned in from Tennessee, but we did get one call about Johnson County, Tennessee. One of the early press releases misspelled Johnson County, North Carolina, which is part of the AgVentures program. So no one from Tennessee is as eligible for this. You have to be in one of the 100 North Carolina counties or the Cherokee Reservation. AgVentures is for 46 counties in particular, so you have about twice as much competition in AgVentures as you do in AgOptions. They do have more money, so that's okay. However, 2 important differences between AgVentures and AgOptions. For one, AgVentures is limited to 250 applicants. So it is, once 250 people apply, the grant program is closed. There's a closing date as well in December 15th, but that's open. What's that? It opened October 15th. So we're 2 weeks into it, or 2 weeks and change into it. I spoke to Jackie Murphy Miller earlier today, the grant program coordinator. She did not mention how many there were, but she didn't sound concerned.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Caitlin just asked, how often are grants offered?
These programs, I mean, so it's sort of a multi-tiered answer. AgOptions has been offered every year for these 23 Western counties since, what did they say, 2004? It's been a long time. Ashe County was eligible for the rapid grants until 2011, we think. It's been a while. And AgVentures has only expanded to be the 46 middle Piedmont counties recently. So whether this gets offered again next year, we hope. It should be annual, but I can't promise it. I can't promise it for either one because it's state budget dependent and then tobacco trust fund dependent and then program dependent. Yeah, three people above us get to decide. The other difference, the way that they will know when there are 250 applicants to AgVentures is that this is an online only application. So I'll go through the application. I won't belabor it because a lot of the questions are exactly the same as AgOptions that we saw. But it is an online only portal where you will get an account through a third party entity called Submittable, and I think I have it here. I might have to go backwards. Yeah, so it's this Submittable account, and just an email and choose your own password, and it's entirely easy to get signed up. But before I wade into that, I'm going to tell you a little more about the overlaps and differences, and then we'll take a look at the application. AgVentures just has a single funding amount, so it's just $8,000. But you can propose for less. And if you have a $6,000 project, then that's fine. The grant committee, the review committee, also reserves the right to lower your grant amount if they think that there's trimmable fat or competitive projects that need some of that funding. So you could propose for 8,000 and get 6,000. And I think, at least if their committee process is the same as the way that AgOptions handles it, they will call and inquire whether you can still do the project with the reduced funding. So it's not a, here's your $6,000, you have to make it work. But it is a, would you like $6,000? It could be a work question. AgVentures also does offer a community grant option. So that's, I heard Katie asked about a nonprofit in the interview questioning. And I will say that AgOptions does not usually favor nonprofit entities, but AgVentures would be different in the community grants. So if you're in an Ashe or Wilkes or surrounding area, if you're outside the AgOptions and in AgVentures, which includes Ashe and Wilkes and Allegheny and Surrey and Yankton, and beyond that, I don't even think about where you are.
You're not right here right now.
Not right here, exactly. But if you're in those Piedmont foothills and non-AgOptions counties, then you could be an applicant as a for-profit farm for your own endeavor, and you could be part of a community grant that would potentially be a nonprofit cooperative or producer association or network. So that would be the place, I think, where community grants where nonprofits could probably tap in. And that should be, of course, at least one or more of the farmers be in the element, preferably most of them. They are looking for a return of income or savings within the first 2 years, just like AgOptions. So do look at those immediate impacts. And their criteria are innovation and profitability. Those are overlap with AgOptions really well. Besides learning from Eddie and I tonight, you have the chance to sign up for workshops with Jackie Miller, the coordinator of the AgVentures program coming up. I think the soonest one is November 3rd, and that's on their website. The workshops are listed. And then there's a November 16th and a December 1st workshop coming up. And the deadline for November 3rd would be tonight at noon. I think they close it, so they want to send materials to you ahead of time. So if by any chance you need a second workshop this week, then right after you log off of this Zoom meeting, you can go over to AgVentures and sign up, and that should get you in the queue for November 3rd. No problem. The other difference with it being an online application is that you will name a cooperating extension agent just like AgOptions. However, the cooperating agent for your AgVentures proposal, once you name them, we get an email with access to your application and only the option of typing into the extension agent. So I think that you will see our commentary. And I think, yeah, and it gives us an option to comment on every segment of your application. So as we go through it, I'll mention it, but as you describe your farm history, then the agent has a chance to potentially add to that or or complement it. And yeah, I mean, for both of these, it is pretty much a mandatory process that you're working with the agent. So it's just an opportunity for the agent to weigh in either context. But with the AgOptions, it's sort of a one shot and anonymous. I don't think the applicant sees the agent's commentary. And with this, you will see commentary. Honestly, it's not really different. It's not like the agents talk about secret stuff in the other one. So yeah, I'm going to scroll down here and show and ask questions if you see something. They do ask you to summarize your project at the very beginning. So in one sentence, a project goal. I will say that, because farming inevitably attracts us idealists, you don't need to solve the problems of the world. It's an $8,000 grant at the outside. And so, a little more ecological sustainability, a little more resource efficiency, a little more labor savings can be good. There's no point in dragging. It's creating a revolution. You got it. That's for the next grant. Strict things. I think Eddie didn't mention spouses, but actually for AgOptions and AgVentures, both, you cannot be married to an extension agent either. I think you can be brothers or sisters, maybe. Just like AgOptions, the ag agent, the cooperating agent has a chance to weigh in again through the online form, but they are looking for 2 letters of reference. And I think Eddie did a good job of summarizing that, but just to reiterate, it could be people that you were buying from. It could be people that you are learning from. So, your farm supplier, if they're supplying innovative products, they can talk about how your farm is a good fit for their product and how they can make you more efficient. It could be neighbors who are cooperating, or even, a farm manager or other person in the project. And then it can be your customers. So it could be the food hub, it could be wholesale buyers, it could be one very satisfied retail buyer. But to the extent that they include information about how impressed they are with you and with how this project is going to help them in their buyer or supplier or teaching role, and then what they're going to do too. If the food hub says, hey, we could sell 20 more boxes of their steak mix than this livestock provider is selling us right now, then that's a great anecdote to be included there. Again, the first narrative and the word limits are a little different. I think the history of your farm and AgOptions is 375, here it's 300. So you have to be brief, you have to be concise. But the history of your farm is your first chance to begin building that narrative. So where the farm has been and what roots and connections you feel. And then there's some more, just like in AgOptions, there's some more kind of brief questions. But what you're growing right now, and you really should be growing or selling something. It's difficult to fund a farm that doesn't have any sales records. So these grants are geared mostly toward people who want to add a new crop or livestock endeavor or agritourism endeavor, but have at least some crop or livestock or agritourism income prior. What things have generated revenue on your farm before? They do ask about labor. They do ask about tobacco history. They do ask about working with extension, and even if you haven't worked much with extension, now's a great time to call for, call myself or Eddie or Ellie in Wilkes or any of the surrounding county agents. And whether you need soil tests, whether you need feedback on something, whether you need just to discuss crop ideas, the more often we're in touch with you and the more we've discussed, the better we can flesh out our descriptions in these applications or recommendation forms. They do want to see some information about how you're doing outreach already. I scrolled past the Facebook link. How COVID has affected you, and I'll put a plug in that the USDA COVID response funds are still out there and available, and there's a deadline coming up. No reason why you can't apply for more than one of these things. So if you do need to mitigate COVID under a pretty broad umbrella, that's a whole other discussion that you can inquire with us about. So the section 3 and 4, again, there's a number of questions. So they say, please read first, because hopefully your narrative builds and doesn't repeat itself. They want you to describe this sort of broad area, I think, just to allocate it to reviewers. I will say a little bit more about the reviewing committees, both AgOptions and AgVentures. The review committees are primarily extension agents, but there are ag industry suppliers and buyers also weighing in on that. Partner organizations, partner nonprofits are serving on the review committee. And where was I going with that? Bye, Liz. Yeah, I'll get back to you in a minute. I'm sure about the review committee. The total cost, I think there is room. I mean, if you have a realistic other source of capital for this project, committees do value kind of skin in the game. So if you, if either you're bringing a lot of farm resources or a lot of experience or a lot of capital into the project, then I think that gets recognized by the review committees. So Eddie said, don't worry too much about the in-kind and matching funds. And that's, I think, technically right, but it does speak to something if you're putting at least one of those things in, either a lot of time spent studying or a lot of money or a lot of resources that you've built up over time, on the farm besides cash. Here the cost share is 15%, so not 8,800, but it would be what would that be? It would be 950, right? If I'm doing math in my head right. So a little more cash is being asked for, and where are you going to get it? Do you have it? Are you borrowing it? Are you getting it from someone else? I think the committees are interested in knowing what happens, even if you don't get funded. Hopefully, this has been an exercise of thought and sort of farm development, even if the money doesn't happen this year. And I'd say, I think it is true for both grants. I know it's true for AgOptions that even if you don't get funded this year, if you move ahead and apply the coming year, that a second round of application, especially if you've taken the feedback and refined the project, and submitted and edited and updated a proposal. I've worked with a lot of growers who got funded on their second or third try. So don't give up if it's just this year, if you get a no this year. And you see these boxes again, the extension agents are going to be weighing in on just about everything that you propose. So keep us in the loop, because the more we know and the more there's a dialogue between your agent and yourself, the more that I think these sections will help your proposal along. Asking for marketing again, just like this, there's a little bit about food safety that hasn't made it into AgOptions yet. Really, you know, each of these boxes is at 200 words each. Not that you have to fill them up, but you have an option of, you know, if you want to grow an innovative vegetable crop and you have innovative ideas about how to market it, and then you have excellent food safety practices, you don't have to cram all that into one question. Think about how you spread it out between these answers. They do ask for a budget, and I think Eddie did a great job covering budget materials, but if you have questions, I'm happy to field them. They do ask for the reference letters. They do give you the option for photos, and I would encourage, I mean, even just to show the scale of what you're farming at and whatnot, I'm a believer in photos. You know, not every agent will be familiar with the type of farming you're doing. And I guess that cues me back to what I was going to say about the review committee. Your proposal will never be reviewed by an agent in your county or an agent who knows you. So we don't have to assign conflict of interest things too. And when I have served on review committees, I'm reviewing proposals from way down, you know, the southern part of the state where I don't know anybody, or you know, maybe occasionally I say, oh, I know this guy, so someone else will review that. But that is the case here in AgVentures. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, we need those cows with the different leg lengths, right? Because this is an online application, do save your drafts along the way. There's no harm in putting, you know, the application from AgVentures is downloadable, and there's no harm in typing your draft answers in Word or Google Docs and then pasting them into the boxes as you're really happy with them. But if you're going to do it all online, definitely save the draft frequently. I'm old school enough that I want it on my hard drive too. So yeah, I think I've covered just about everything that I'm going to do. The more you need to know, or those you all know.
If we're considering or planning to start a new venture, like a reboot organization, or some expansion and adding new, is it better to apply to a new entity? The entity will be forming fourth wheel.
Yeah. But essentially it's one farming operation that y'all are
Oh, yeah.
forming. Yeah, it's
And all the assets in the other family transfer.
huh.
Basically,
I
right
mean, I
now,
think in that case, maybe your prior assets and your prior experience would be
Right.
more than assets in a brand new entity.
well, I mean, it's the same operation, right? It's just a.
Yep.
Because right now it's an S corp, we're gonna turn it into an LLC.
Cool.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So same name, similar name, same brand, same. people.
Mhm.
The long-standing history is with previous organizations. obviously. So that's probably.
And I think, I mean, the fact that it's essentially, even if it's a group of people farming together,
Right.
it's still one farm. So I think you're right. An individual application in that case. There's no reason why that new farm plus three others wanted to share the scale or share with someone else, but they couldn't have both applications. So,
No, we're just basically the business that I built expands.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is that is there a problem because basically the current business is going to be essentially closed and then the other one open. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So in other words, if the grants are awarded to the S corporation, the S corporation exists for 9 years. You know what I'm saying? That's sort of technicality.
I think that'd be a question for Jackie.
Okay.
I don't feel qualified to answer that.
I just don't want you to do yourself in the foot, you know what I'm saying? Oh, get this money.
Yeah, where is it?
Where's this business? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's right here. Well, that's, you know,
Yeah.
but I swear it's the same thing.
Yeah, I would inquire straight with Jackie about that, and then I have a feeling that she will tell you to just describe the change in organization and why,
Okay,
and then when they're ready to cut the taxes.
Right.
Yes.
that's right. But that seems reasonable to me, and she has to say that.
Yes. Anything else I might have with, or anything in that box? I haven't. Cool. All right. Well, good luck to everybody out there. Oh, what, 3 more than Eddie and I are both available here. I can say for a fact that in Ashe County, Micah and Travis are also available. And much outside of there, I couldn't speak to who is very involved or partially involved, but I think that extension agents everywhere want to see their growers succeed. So go for it.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop sharing here. And I guess Jess, if you want to